Hi, welcome to So You Think You're Awake. I'm Michael Sheridan, and thank you to everybody who sent dreams in for this first show, well, a relaunch of a show. It's definitely different from being on KKNW, but I need your dreams. I can't do the show without your dreams, and I got some really good ones, and I'm just going to take them from the top, the people who sent them first. And I've got technology with me, so I can do the show a little bit differently. Obviously, you can see me. And I'm going to make use of the fact that we have a video format for that. So please do continue to send dreams in for the show so that I have more for next week and the weeks after. Dream-analysis.com, and links underneath this show will tell you where you can do that. So let's have a look at the first dream. It's from Sarah. And this is where I'm going to use some of the stuff. But Sarah says, I had this dream the year I turned 50 and had been widowed the year before. It has been weighing heavily on my mind again, and I'd value your thoughts. Okay, now Sarah is 67 at this time. So obviously the message in this dream doesn't really apply anymore. I mean, it may apply a bit, but that's an important point. Whatever's going on for you in a dream, if it's an old dream, is not necessarily relevant, because dreams focus on the weakest aspect of your functioning at the present time. So if you've already dealt with something, then it's no point looking at the dream anymore. So let's have a look at Sarah's dream. She says, I was traveling on a road with cars zooming in both directions. I was on an old-fashioned push scooter. So that's not a good thing. Obviously, if you're on a road and you're on a push scooter, it tells us that life is difficult. Other people are in cars, they're having easy transport, getting from where they are to where they need to be, and life is difficult for you. Now, obviously, if you've just been made a widow, that makes sense. But so the dream fits in with what's going on in her life. She says, an old-fashioned push scooter where you put one foot on the scooter, and then you look at the words in the dream. So it's all going to apply to what's going on in your life now. And it says, she says, it's where you hold the handle with both hands. So it's really saying, okay, what you need to do is hold on with both hands. I mean, it's an expression, it's a normal expression. So hold on to life with both hands. The dream knows that you're going through difficulty, obviously. The dreams come from your higher self, so your higher self knows that you're going through difficulty, and that's what it's trying to address here. We also then have your next sentence is, you hold on with both hands and push yourself forward. So again, the dream is encouraging you to push yourself forward, stick with it, and of course that's the type of support you do need in those times. Push yourself forward with the other foot. After scooting along for a really long time and being passed by cars all the while, I arrived at a town only to find that I had a flat tire on the front of my scooter. Now, tires in dreams represent the heart. We'll get into that in other dreams too. I mean, it's very common. Any circle can represent the heart, but tires are probably one of the most common ones. A flat tire on the front. I had a flat tire on the front, so I took it to a repair shop. So a repair shop in a dream, because the scooter represents your body, or anything physical here that allows you to move yourself around, represents the physical body. So the repair shop is you getting something or looking after your body. And you gave the man a $50 bill. So this is where it starts to get really good. A $50 bill is you paying your karma. So karma is just a way of life. It's like we have a life purpose. We've agreed before we came here that we're going to do particular things. And for everybody it's unique, and it's individual. So this dream then is going to tell you what you need to do because you're trying to pay your karma in the dream. He gave me my change back in silver coins. So this is what he's saying needs to happen. This is the change that you need to undertake. The silver coins represent a strong intuition. So you have a strong intuition. It works through the female side, which is the heart again. So now we see why the heart came up earlier in the dream. So it's saying this is what you need to do. Instead of pulling away from life, you need to get more into your feelings and intuition. And that is the connection to your higher self. So if you have a strong connection there, you don't even need to get a message through your dreams. You will, of course, but the message is going to come through your intuition anyway. So that's what it's encouraging you to do. But do you like this? Do you think this is a good thing? We see the next thing you say is, he gave you 2 hands full. So 2 hands full. So if I say something is a handful, then it's going to be difficult for me to do, or I think it's going to be difficult. So you say it's 2 hands full, so it's doubly difficult. I didn't know how I was ever going to get all those coins into my already full coin purse. So I didn't know how. I was saying you don't know how to use, tap into your intuition, and your coin purse is already full. So the coin purse represents your heart here, because it holds your money. And you put money in and out of it. You know, money really circulates through it like it does through a bank. You don't just put money into it. It's in and out, and it's that flow of money is why it represents the heart. So the dream wants change in your heart, wants you to develop your intuition, but you have difficulty with that, and understandably, I mean, with what was going on at that time in your life. So what'll be interesting now, Sarah, is if you write and let us know whether after some time you took the message of the dream on board and have developed your intuition, and indeed what you're doing with that. That would be good to know. So we have the you didn't know how, already full coin purse, but then what it says here in the dream is you didn't know how you're going to get them into the purse, but they fit. So this change will fit you. So this is really something that's encouraging. And then you say, I traveled to a house where there were other people. So this is probably part of the difficulty, being around people at this time. A storm had come up and many of the guests had already left to avoid it. Now you have a few words that you use here that all say that, okay, we now know what the dream is asking you to change, and then we see your reaction to it. You see that it's difficult. We saw that in the last few phrases, but then we also see more of your reaction here. So the storm, of course, is what's going on in your life now. And you say that people had left to avoid it, so you want to avoid using your gift. So it's all about the gift at this stage. I was nice and dry during the bad weather, and that's not a good thing in a dream. It might be good in reality, but in a dream it's not. You say you watched it rain from an upstairs window. So rain in dreams represents life, and to go into the rain or get wet in rain is really good in a dream. Avoiding it is not, because it's saying you're avoiding life. Again, we understand why. We know where you're coming from, and anybody who's lost anybody, and most of us here would at our age, we understand what you're going through and have empathy. But still, this is what the dream is asking you to do. Not watch life pass you by, like is what we have at the start of the dream too. So you watched it rain from an upstairs window. When the storm was ready over, I thought I'd catch a ride with one of the other guests, but they'd all either already left or weren't ready to leave. So again, here in this, at the end of the dream, you're saying you're not ready. You finish off with, so I knew I'd have to get back on that scooter again. Now, that last part is, of course, continuing on with the difficulty that you have now in your life. But so what we have in the dream is really good. It's saying develop your intuition. Surprisingly, the pain and the strong feelings that come up from the loss will help you get more in touch with your feelings, because you've got to express them and to deal with it, and they exercise your heart in a way. So that should help you develop your intuition, get a stronger feeling there. And that's basically it. So we have intuition come up with the silver coins, and we also have it from you watching from an upstairs window. So two things there. So an interesting dream to see what you came up with afterwards, because that has been some time ago now. Let's have a look at another. This one's from Holly. She says, her comments are, I routinely have dreams about swimming pools, though I hardly encounter them in real life, and I dislike swimming. Babies show up fairly frequently in my dreams too. Now, what's interesting, Holly sent me 3 dreams. Her first dream, which I thought I was going to include here. In fact, I think I see it here. I have a piece of it. She sees difficulties with things. And from her first dream, which I'm not going to do, except to say that just the very first part, she says, I was working on a consulting project away from home. So away from home means away from the spirit world. And the consulting project means that she's come to the earth plane to help with something. We don't know what it is, but others have asked her to do, asked for her help. So she's got some skills. She says, I had scheduled a car service to take me from a hotel to the job site in the morning. The car service is her body, so she's organized this vehicle of transport. So spirits on the physical plane need a body. She'd organised this from her hotel, which is Berth, and to return me to my hotel at the end of the day. Normally the fare was $60 each way. Anyway, it continues on, and they had jacked up the price, and that was really bad. She didn't like that. So basically it says that she has lived lives, former lives, on the dharmic path, which is, I mentioned karma in the first one. Dharma is where you come in and you know what your life is about. You're in touch with the spirit world. You're in touch with your higher self, and you're in alignment. That's one of the phrases going around a lot these days. You're in alignment with what your purpose is. So Holly has come here before and stayed in alignment, stayed on the dharmic path. And on that path, things come to you. Things happen effortlessly. It's not that things aren't necessarily difficult, but the work that you have to do to get things to happen is much easier on the dharmic path. So you've lived that life, you're not on it now, you're getting close to getting back onto the dharmic path, and that's why you're frustrated with the effort that has to go into things now. Anyway, to the dream that I really wanted to do. She says, I needed to get some kind of yearly service, perhaps an annual state, let me move this thing on, perhaps an annual state inspection performed on my red motorcycle. I pushed the motorcycle up multiple flights of stairs in a building to the service station. The technician turned me away because there was some kind of permit I should have obtained in advance. On previous occasions they'd performed the inspection without it, but this time they were holding firm. So we have the red motorcycle and the service station, and I wrote to Holly just before coming on air when I'd looked at this dream. And the red motorcycle, I'm pushing it to a service station. The service station represents a clinic, like in the repair station in the last dream. So it's a hospital or a clinic, and the red motorcycle is about the dreamer's, it represents the reproductive system, and the annual inspection represents what women have to go through, smear tests, exams and so on, that men don't have to go through. And when I wrote to her and asked her, does she find, because she says here that they refused, and the next thing she says is, I was upset by the refusal and the inconvenience and unfairness of obtaining a permit before returning. I got on my motorcycle to head home, but now it was a bicycle and it had a basket on the back with a baby. So in case you're wondering whether it was or is the reproductive system or not, the basket in a dream can represent the womb, and a baby inside, of course, is about carrying a baby. So anyway, I asked her if she thought it was unfair that women had to go through all these things that men don't have to go through. And her reply is kind of funny. She says, thank you for your email. Whoa, I'm impressed by your question. Yes, I so resent that as a woman I have to subject myself to the invasiveness of those kind of female exams. In general, I feel burdened by some of the requirements of being a woman. I struggle not to resent my monthly menstrual cycle, or that to have a baby I would have to have the burden of carrying it in my body for 9 months and dealing with it, with the other side effects of pregnancy. I wish the husband and wife could decide together who would carry the baby. And of course, that's understandable. I can't understand it, of course, not having to go through it. But we now see, okay, why the red motorcycle is about the menstrual cycle. But we had it from other things in the dream. But it's kind of a cool symbol, just the red motorcycle. And you know, even just the color red is the color of the base chakra. So that, along with the motorcycle, gives us a lot there. So, so we have something about the dreamer there. We have something about Holly. But we know now that her issue with the difficulties in life is compounded by the fact that she's been on the dharmic path before, and she has a memory of it, and she wants to get back there. And indeed she will. She's close. So what have we got after this? She says, it had a basket on the back with a baby inside wrapped in a blanket. The baby was sort of mine, but somehow wasn't. Okay, so the baby represents here your responsibility, or an aspect of you that you have to bring into being. And just like pregnancy, the effort involved in bringing a child into the world is, it pays off huge dividends. And so too with the ability that the dream is going to talk about. The effort that's required from you to bring this in is really going to pay dividends too. And of course, you know, there are negatives with being a woman, and many negatives, of course, in our society with being a woman. or having to go through the things women have to go through. But women are the doorway between the spirit world and the physical world. There's huge respect afforded to being a woman on the planet. There are huge benefits spiritually that come with being a woman on the planet compared to being a man. You're much more easily able to reach higher states of energy than a man can. You're much more easily able to clear issues from childhood than a man can. Even with the best therapies that can be done, a man is lucky to get maybe deal with 60 to 70% of all the issues. They're still carrying a lot of baggage. A woman can clear a lot more than that, a heck of a lot more than that. So there are huge advantages. Worth just saying that because this is, of course, a spiritual show. Anyway, you say the baby was sort of mine, but somehow wasn't, so that's interesting. I rode my bike quickly, taking a shortcut through a large green field. So a shortcut through a large green field, because it's a green field, is the Dharmic path too. So this is how I know you're close to that, because even in this dream, you say you're going to take the Dharmic path. The field was normally a marsh, but on this particular day, the water was drained from it. Some stuff there we won't go into. Partway through the field, my front tire hit a hard spot. So we have the front tire again, so we know it's the heart, female side. And the baby was thrown from the basket. I ran through the field looking for it, thinking to myself, oh, this is really bad. I could get in trouble for this. I called for help to some people in the distance, but no one seemed to notice. And that tells us a little bit about you and your own childhood. Not getting the attention you felt you needed. Suddenly I noticed a dead woman, and this is where the dream seems to take a total turn. But it gets really interesting here, and it matches your next dream. Suddenly I noticed a dead woman hanging from a tree in the marsh. Somehow I knew that the baby from the basket belonged to the dead woman. It occurred to me that maybe the baby hadn't actually flown out of the basket. I returned to the basket, lifted the blanket, and was relieved to find the baby. So that's really good. So we know the baby, you haven't lost this ability. So it's like, okay, I've given up on this ability with the baby being thrown. And then you're kind of panicked and saying, okay, I've got to find it again. So it's not, of course, about a baby or having a baby. It's all symbolic. But anyway, you find the baby. And then a blonde woman who appeared next to me suggested that if we carried the baby to the dead mother, we could probably hear them talk to each other in a spiritual way, I think. And that's the end of that dream. So the blonde woman is a guide. Guides in dreams show up typically with authority. They have a position of authority. They quite often have a title to match the authority. But they have purity of thought. So here with the woman being blonde hair represents purity of thought. So we know straight away this woman's a guide. And she suggests to you, and who would ever do this, that you could help the baby talk to its dead mother. So it's, of course, the baby represents the ability that you have to breathe life into or bring into this world. So that ability is an ability to communicate with the deceased or to communicate with people who've passed on or spirits. They don't have to have been passed on, but that's really the emphasis in the dream. I mean, they don't have to have been here. You could communicate with guides and so on who have never been here. So that's your ability to communicate with spirits, and that's what this whole dream is about. It seems funny that you have all this other stuff at the start of the dream. So it's saying, okay, you've got to deal with that because that's going to hold you back from taking on the responsibility. So it's kind of like life is unfair, that, and it's an exaggeration in the dream. It's not that difficult in your mind, and it's not that difficult in your heart. You really don't have a really, really negative view. But the dream is saying, look, all this comes together. Everything comes as a package. You being a woman is required for you to achieve your life purpose. And your life purpose includes channeling, communicating with the dead. So let's have a look at a really short next dream that you've got. And we see the same thing in just a few sentences. You say, I was at an indoor swimming pool. So an indoor swimming pool is about spirituality because it's water. Water represents spirituality in dreams if it's not polluted, that is. So we know it's a spiritual dream. And so we expect to see your gifts coming up. Now, we already know your ability is to communicate with spirits because we saw you doing it in the last dream. There were 2 children swimming laps. And we know later on that you say it's one boy, one girl. One was a baby boy in a diaper. He was so little that his body wasn't heavy enough for him to stay fully in the water, but he freestyle stroked across the water so quickly and effortlessly, in a way a real-life baby could never actually do. I marveled at the child's mother to the child's mother how remarkable his abilities were. The little boy's sister, about 3 years old, also swam laps. I was amazed. So we know it's about channeling because we have the number 2 showing up and we have a boy and a girl, and channeling is one of the rare abilities that requires both male and female energy working in harmony. And that's why you've got to get the balance from the last dream. Harmony of neither energy, neither aspect of you being out of line or disrespecting the other energy. Anyway, so the positives in this is the child is able to swim effortlessly. You find the abilities remarkable and you're amazed. So the dream is encouraging you to have this attitude towards your own abilities, which of course you will. Anyway, they're your dreams. Hope you enjoy them. And so let's move on. I'm not going to use that for the rest. This one is from Randy. Really short dream. The comments are important. Randy says, this girl in the dream is a girl that has a child with my son's father, and from what I hear, they say that she hates me. Now, you give no other details. We don't know whether she has a son from your child's father from before you are a couple, or whether indeed you still are a couple, and so on. Anyway, the dream is, I dreamt about a girl who had her clothes in my bag, and when I realized that, I got angry and quickly took her clothes out of my bag and threw it on the ground while she was looking at me from a distance with her son. Okay, so, and you call the title of the dreams Clothes in My Bag. Please always title the dreams when you send them, it's really good. So clothes represent attitudes. We wear clothes to suit whatever it is we need to do. So whatever we're going to address, whatever role, if I'm a policeman, I got to dress up in the right uniform. If I'm a soldier, I got to wear the right uniform, baker, etc., etc. So clothes represent the attitudes. And here, because somebody else has their clothes in your bag, and a bag represents baggage, so it's saying that you're right to take this person's clothes out of your bag, that this is baggage that you're taking, that you don't need. It's not your baggage. So her anger is something that you could do without. Now you got to watch that this isn't causing you to be angry, because that would be really the baggage that it's given you. So, so two things. You're right in the dream. You did absolutely the right thing, taking her clothes out and throwing it on the ground. And being angry in the dream is also fine as well, because it's not real life. You can express anger, you can murder people, you can do all sorts of things in dreams that will allow you vent frustrations and so on. And that's what this dream is about. So in reality, the dream is saying that's what you need to do. You need to get over not carry any baggage from the fact that there is a woman who also has a child from the man that's in your life. Okay. And this next dream we know is from a man. And he says, my daughter had left the bathroom sink running and it overflowed onto my sister's wooden floors. Okay, I was going to do all this technology with everything, but I had problems with the mics, so it delayed this, but we'll have it for next week. So the bathroom sink, the wooden floors and the drain, they all represent the elimination system. Obvious reasons why. Well, we know why the bathroom would. The wooden floors because of the colour brown that they typically would be. And then the drain also to do with elimination and cleansing. Soapy scum with hair all over it, all over the white sink. Important that the dreamer says white sink. I started cleaning it, but it was hard to get the soapy scum off. I expected it to just wipe clean, but it didn't. I wondered what I needed to do to clean it. So we know this is about the elimination system, and we know from the colour white that the dream is saying the dreamer needs to eliminate dairy products. And from talking to this dreamer, we can get confirmation on that. Now, here's the thing. This dreamer already knew that he wasn't meant to be eating dairy products or drinking dairy, but he thought he'd get away with it. So he thought he could have cereal with milk, and that's what he was doing. And that's what the hair represents. There's hair. I said earlier, hair represents thoughts. So we have hair in with the soapy scum. So it's saying this is something you knew, you thought about it in advance, but he expected he wouldn't be affected by it. So he says, I thought I would just be able to wipe it clean. But then he was left with, okay, what do I need to do now? Well, it's clear. Don't eat dairy. Easy to do. And there'll be all sorts of reasons why, and this dreamer knows what they are. from other dreams being done, what the issues are, why he has a dairy allergy. But we won't go into them here. This one's from Judy. Let me just check the time. I was wondering why I heard a doorbell. I'm asleep and then I get up and answer the door, but there's nobody there. So I'm assuming this happens from time to time. So that's actually quite good. This is usually the type of thing that happens in your dreams right before you wake up in reality. So I call this show So You Think You're Awake. And it's about the fact that we go through life thinking we know what's going on. We learn from our parents and our siblings and society what's expected of us. But we only learn about the physical side of things. We very rarely, at least in our society, look at life and say, okay, what's my spiritual purpose? Why am I here? And our dreams come to us to wake us up to the fact that there is a purpose to our life, more than just getting that job, staying in until I'm 65 and getting a pension. That's never what life is about. So this doorbell is a common thing you see in dreams right before you have an epiphany and go, I get it. I know what life is about. I know, and you start your quest. You may not know what your purpose is, but you certainly get awoken to the fact that there's more to life, and you start your search, and it's a fantastic time in life. Very exciting. But that's what it's about. Okay, so I did look at the time. Let's have a look at this one. This one would have been really good with this new technology. I'm rushed, another man's dream, Pat. I'm rushed to leave a complex of some kind with many stories and rooms/quarters as waters rise. I look for my pack in my room from the night before, but it had been cleaned already, and I figure it's in lost and found, and really don't worry. Okay, so this dreamer, this is a one-of-a-kind type of person, a real maverick. They live literally by the seat of their pants. They move from town to town. They have no problem taking on a job, and more importantly, they've no problem leaving a life behind. This whole dream reminds me of like a Western where you'd see somebody just kind of ride into town, do something profound, change people's lives in the town, and then ride on and to the next town. And this is the way this dreamer is. He's lived his life this way. And because he's lived his life this way in this modern world, nobody understands him. Nobody could understand him because there's not many people actually live their life this way. Anyway, so that's what the many stories is, and the complex and all the different rooms and quarters are. So as the waters rise, so water in dreams, I said earlier, represents life. So as the water rises, he decides to move on. So when life starts catching up, it's time for him to move on. And he looks for his pack. So I'm going back a bit here. Looks for a pack in his room, but it's already been cleaned away. So it's like this, but this is a big thing. These are the tools I have, or these are the things I've collected, and they're all gone, and I've got to leave them all behind. Now that's what most people can't leave behind. But this has happened to him before, and he's just like, okay, I'm not going to worry about it. I've lost everything before, so I'm going to just move on with my life. And I mean, really, my hat's off to this guy for the way he can do this. I leave the cityscape and wander across a landscape in the country nearby, cross flooded rivers to a small piece of dry earth. So he just moves on till he gets to another patch of dry land in the dream, symbolically, another patch of dry land. So it's like, okay, I'll set roots down here for a little while. Then driving a truck, rushing to get out of Dodge. Okay, again, we have like old-fashioned references, getting out of Dodge. Margaret was in the passenger seat. She's my girlfriend in real life. So, okay, so the first part of the dream paints a picture of what the life this dreamer has lived. Now he's with his girlfriend. So we know this dream is about the relationship. And so he says, Margaret was with me. I approach a washout and stop. So this is where I wish I had the words. So a washout, a stop, he says, a truck to my right barrels into the far bank from our side and bores through it up to the other side. I punch it, and Margaret and I plunge forward onto the truck's nose. We right and start digging through the far bank, pushing it into 4 low and then crawling out with relief and excitement. So if I was to say, okay, these are the words I'm going to use to describe my relationship, I plunge forward. That's not very good. It's like taking the plunge. So we have somebody who likes to live footloose and fancy free with no real ties to anything, is now looking at a relationship and saying, how can I make this commitment? And he's not used to this, but that's why he's having this dream. So what it's saying is, the prediction is you're going to approach a washout, or you're going to hit something in the relationship that's going to cause you to stop, going to cause you, like he says in the dream, put it into 4 low, so into low gear, and then start moving forward slowly, like you say, you're crawling. But like I said, it is all about taking the plunge, because you say you plunge forward. What else have we got? A truck barrels into the bank and then bores through it. So again, your approach is very male. You even say, I punch it, and we end up on the truck's nose. And the truck is another very male symbol. So we see a hugely male approach being brought that's worked well for you in the life that you normally live. It's not going to work well for you here, because it's going to cause you to say, okay, I need to slow down, we're going too fast, all these things. That is not right, because what you really need to do is get into your female side. Anyway, you crawl out with relief and excitement. We drive uphill, and even the driving uphill is not good, so it's a bit of a struggle. We drive uphill, and to the left, the scene changes to winter, and I am charged. Okay, so we have a complete change of scene here. And this is going to tell you what's going to happen, or what you're going to feel like doing after you hit this washout, or hit this thing where you need to hit the brakes. And every relationship hits this, by the way, every relationship. And that's really where the relationship grows, because we meet a partner and we say, how are we going to compromise with each other for this? Speaking of compromise, it's my wife's birthday today. Happy birthday, Sandy. And thank you for giving me all the time to prepare for this first show. Okay, so changes to winter. So this is about becoming cold. And it's about being emotionally cold. So this is what you've got to watch. And the lifestyle that you've lived requires you to be emotionally cold. You can't just move on from everybody you know and everything you know, unless you can keep this kind of coldness about you. And that's where the difficulty comes. You've got to let go of that. Anyway, I'm charged with walking a large cat that I take to be a cheetah or a leopard. Now, a leopard, can a leopard change its spots? That's the big question here. As we step out to walk, the cat takes off with amazing speed, ploughing through a powder snow world, blazing trail that I am towed easily through, holding onto the leash. It has no loop for the hand. I have to hold on tight, I think to myself. It's exhilarating. So, okay, so you're being dragged along. So you are this big cat. So you feel like your life is dragging you along, and you really have to hold on to this leash in order to be pulled through this powdered snow, and that you find exhilarating. So if I can be cold or in a cold setting, I can just move through life very fast, no attachments, and it's really, really great. But what we see here is you are the one holding onto the leash. You could let go at any moment, and that's what the dream is showing you that you can do, that it's you holding onto this. So that's what you need to do, is let go of that lifestyle. Going to be difficult for you to do because you really find it exhilarating. But then we also have, can't avoid this one. You say it's either a cheetah or a leopard. So with the lifestyle that you had before, because you stay distant from people, I mean, you've been in relationships, and you can be in relationships, no problem, but you wouldn't consider it cheating, for example, going with somebody else, because that's the lifestyle you lived. You know, I didn't promise you that I'd be faithful. I explained all this in advance. This is who I am, and so on and so on and so on. So for you, it's not cheating, but of course for your partner it would be. And it's not saying that you are cheating. It's just saying this is where you're heading, and this is something that you're going to have to consider. That the old lifestyle that you had that allowed you all these things is really going to be something you need to let go of if you want this relationship to work. But even look at the way you painted all this. The whole scene with the girlfriend is a disaster. It's the most difficult part of everything that's happening in the dream. So that's where all the work has to go. And of course, yes, everything else is exhilarating. But if you want the relationship, you got to put the work in where you need to do it. So not wanting to be pinned down and all that sort of thing, you've got to give that up. So let's see. We're nearly at the end of it. We're a few minutes over. I hope that's okay. So this dream is from somebody from Bosnia. He says, I was translating a catalogue with several glossy pages of pictures and instructions. When I completed the translation of the catalogue, I met with President Trump, who took it, went through it page by page, and prepared it for further translation into other languages like German. Okay, so doesn't matter what you think about President Trump. Well, of course it does matter, but he's president, so it represents that this dreamer has a spiritual leadership ability. And I think this dreamer likes Trump, I can't remember. So that all helps for him. But anyway, he's translating a catalogue. So he's living in the Western world. He's extremely fluent in English, teaches English, even though he doesn't come from an English-speaking country. And what his purpose in life now is to translate the Western view of spirituality into something that is palatable for his country. And that's what all the several glossy pictures and so on, he's looking at those. So he's to take the best of it. So I'm not from America either, but of course Irish and American cultures are very, very similar. But still having a little bit of objectivity, it's easy to understand where other people outside of America could look at things and say, well, why should I take the American perspective on things? You know, America does X, Y, and Z, especially you think of Trump pulling out of the climate agreement and so on. A lot of the rest of the world would be saying, you know, America isn't a leader or America isn't doing the right thing. Why should I listen to American spiritual things? And really we should, because what America is fantastic at doing, and what people in America are fantastic at doing, is taking centuries old spiritual practices and modernizing them and making them palatable to our cultures. And so where you have extremes, America will have extremes. So America has, yes, it has a lot of karmic things going on, but it also has a lot of people who live in that contrast, and because of that contrast are able to develop amazingly succinct ways of approaching things that used to take a long time to understand and develop abilities to develop within yourself. And then it markets them back. So this guy is being told, take the best, take the glossy pictures, take the best of what America has to offer, what this culture has to offer, and translate it for your own culture and introduce it to them. Anyway, we continue on with the dream. We walked down the street together and entered his house, not the White House, but his own house. We sat down and he made me a drink with powdered ice. There was a dog there in the house. So, okay, this is about sharing. You know, it's not tea, it's powdered ice. So it's like, okay, sometimes what I have to take or what I have to explain can be cold, but you know, this is what you have to do. So it's like a cold hard truth. Have a drink of that kind of thing. But the dog is there, so this is good. So the dog says that the dreamer has an instinctual way of knowing how to present things to people, because that's what it's all about. The whole thing is about that gift. Trump was on the phone with some people talking about business of it, the catalogue, and in my dream he was a president, but he behaved like a businessman, and I was proud of myself for being there and dealing with the business side of my translation of the catalogue. He was arranging the translation of the catalogue in more languages with some people. I asked him if he ever tried Rakija, which is a plum brandy from my country, and he said, yes, did you bring it? I said, no, I was not coming from that country now. So okay, this last part really sums it up. So it's saying what you're going to do and what you're going to write. Of course you're to write it in English, write it from an American perspective, Western perspective, but it will be translated into your own language, and that's what your focus is to be, that you know it's going to be translated into your own language, but it's also going to be translated into languages of other countries around where you're from. So it's not just got one destination for this. And then he says about the plum brandy. So that's a plum is a fruit and the brandy is a spirit. So it's like a spiritual fruit. This is the fruits of everything you've gone through, the spiritual fruits of everything you've gone through. But you make a point of saying, I don't come from that country anymore. I've changed, so this isn't my perspective anymore. Of course it's not, and that's why you're the person to write this book. You're to bring American spiritual values to Eastern Europe, you could say. So, really cool dream. It's like, my little note I have written on here is like, it's like chicken soup for the soul, but all connected. Like Chicken Soup for the Soul was lots of separate stories. So I have a feeling this is going to be like your life journey interspersed with spiritual things that you came across. And you might have the same thing at several points in the book where you come across it the first time and you're not ready for it and you say, and you reject it. But later on in the book, you're going to drink this powdered ice water drink or whatever it is. and you're going to understand what it really is about then, you know, having gone past the coldness of it and see the value of it. And then you're going to reintroduce it again, but this time it's going to be, oh, now I get it, I get what this is about. I'm going to skip that one. Okay, skip that. You're hoping it's not your dream, aren't you? Okay, so dream, this is from Lisa. I'm in the Oval Office with President Obama, another president. He is standing writing on a small piece of paper. I interrupt him to ask if it is difficult to never be alone. He says it takes some getting used to and nods his head yes. I'm very comfortable with him. Okay, Lisa, so wow, that's really good. So this dream is about you also being a spiritual leader, but here you're very comfortable with that. Now, the one thing that you've got to get over is what happens when people begin to recognize what you can do and how you can help. Then you're going to be inundated. And that's the part that has you kind of holding back. You've sent me quite a few dreams, but they're all really, really short. And it's always good when you have lots of short dreams in quick succession, because it shows you're at a transition point in your life, and that's why the dreams can be short. So really good. The fact that you say you're very comfortable with them, so there's nothing negative in this at all. Then you ask in another email, what do shapes represent, especially, for instance, a rectangle and an oval? Well, we know the oval is the Oval Office from your dreams because you were there before. But a rectangle would represent a limitation, holding back on your spiritual abilities. So don't do that. So we have two more very short ones. This one is from Barbara. She says, I'm about to go from full-time work to part-time so that I can pursue things that I am passionate about. The payoff is that I will earn a lot less money, so I'm slightly anxious about that. Is that a payoff, earning less money? I don't think that's a payoff. Please tell me what your payoff is. The payoff is that you have the time to do the other things. I'm in a super modern corporate building. I get in the lift, it's all glass. So the lift, I thought you were American. A lift is an elevator, of course, and it's all glass. So the lift represents the womb. So it's saying that you brought, because of the all glass, you brought a very strong intuition with you. You're psychic. You have an ability to connect with your higher self and get information about things from nowhere. It seems to everybody else, but it's from your higher self. There's a lady attendant in the lift. Her job is to escort people up and down the lift. She looks pretty bored doing this, but is putting on a brave face. The lift is super fast and rocks slightly. I lean back against one corner for balance. It's a little bit scary because it's so fast. When I get out of the lift, it's like a train station with turnstiles. Now, so here's what's interesting. You say the woman's job in the lift, so she's a guide, she's a lady attendant, she has a job title, I mean. And her job is to escort people up and down the lift. So to escort people to the spirit world, that's really what one of your abilities is. You have the ability to escort people from the earth plane back to the spirit plane. So when people die, a lot of people assume that the passing over is very easy. And for some it isn't. It depends on what your philosophy of life is. You create your reality here on the earth plane, but you also create it in the spirit world, but it's much faster. So if you have a very strong, rigid, difficult belief system, then that's what you're going to encounter when you die. So for some people, it's very difficult to traverse the astral plane and get to the spirit world. But you've got a skill set where you can help people traverse that plane. Now, how do we know that from? We know that from the glass elevator, and also then the fact that you say when you get out of it, there's a train station with turnstiles. Well, what's a train station for? It's where people start or end their journeys. And here they represent life journeys. So you can traverse the astral plane, but you're also going to help people who are living. You're going to teach them how to traverse the astral plane too, because of the skill set you have. So two things: helping people pass over properly or more easily, and also help people with that. I'm not sure whether I could consolidate my last 3 trips so that I don't have to pay for each trip separately. It's funny what we do in a dream. So here's what happens. When you help people on the astral plane, typically it's done at night time, so it's something you're not even generally consciously aware of. It takes a dream like this one to show you that you're doing it, because you're everything in the dream, including the lady attendant who's helping people make the transition to the spirit world. So it pays dividends in other ways. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to do this and I get nothing back. you get payment back in other ways. So keep doing it, and it's going to help you with your financial problems. Well, it's not that you have financial problems, but you have fears about having financial problems. And anyway, so you've got to realize that there are things that you're doing that help you. You call that one fast ride. I hope I explained that one well enough. So last one, I was wondering if you could help me further interpret the dream I'm having, and you only give me a little bit. This is from Kelly. She says, I dreamt of holding a quartz crystal the size of my hand along with a long piece of selenite wand. In my dream, I was looking at them in awe and beauty. Okay, Kelly. So the crystals here, selenite is used to help you get into higher vibrational states. There are lots of different vibrational states, but selenite helps you get there. It also cleanses your aura and helps create protective spaces. Now, I don't know what you work at. You don't tell us anything, but I see you doing channeling or couples counseling. So this dream is saying you need to create or use selenite to create, or crystals to create a safe space where you work, where you're going to use whatever your ability is, because this must be something that's on your mind. Is this something that's safe to do if I try tune in and so on? And of course it is when you do it right. But use the selenite to help you create a safe space so that when you're doing this couples counseling or whatever it is you're doing, that you are not worried about being in a safe space. You're just being able to focus on what it is that you are doing, what it is you're good at. And that's what that dream is about. So really good. Do write, let me know what it is you do, because it'll be interesting. So that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please do continue to send your dreams, dream-analysis.com. And there's a Hit on Radio show. There's buttons there for you to send your dreams to me. And thank you for watching.